Welcome to episode 209 of Sports Management Podcast. Today's guest is Maike Wellmann, a brand specialist, entrepreneur, and founder of Swim and More Academy. Maike went from regional swimmer to building a thriving swim school and helping athletes and federations shape authentic brands. We spoke about balancing authenticity with growth, building communities from the ground up, why branding is about people, and much more. Maike Wellmann, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the invitation.
It's great to have you on the show. So you are a brand specialist, working a lot with branding, previously an athlete. So can you tell us a little bit about your career?
Yeah, I've never been like an international athlete, but I've been a regional athlete, a regional swimmer. I swam up to like county championships, but I was always or have always been passionate about swimming. I learned to swim actually in the US when we were living there as a family when I was 5. So, and from that on, I always loved the sport, always loved to compete. And it came pretty early into my mind, and it always stuck with me that I wanted to work in sports. Basically, probably at the age of 15, 16, it was clear for me I wanted to work in sports, but there was no clear career path. Of course, I could have studied sports management or something like that, but as a 15-year-old kid, you're also kind of at some point influenced by your surroundings and people who tell you, oh, if you want to work in sports, and if you especially want to work in swimming, it's such a niche sport, such a small environment. It's really, really going to be hard to step your foot into this area and even earn your living with that. So I decided after my high school degree to study educational training. So in Germany, when you study educational training for school, you're going to be a teacher for people who work part-time in a company and also go part-time to school. So they're approximately between the age of 16 to 25. And that was my education. I did a bachelor degree in that and also a master degree. And in both of the degrees, I was able to focus on some other topics than educational training. In the bachelor was taxation and accounting. And in the master degree, it was international management. So some different topics, nothing really with sports. But I'm very, very thankful that I was able to do a bachelor degree in something completely different, and also worked for Ernst & Young for 4.5 years during my studies, and was able to gain some international experience with working abroad, and also just working in a team that did a lot of strategical and international topics.
Interesting. So, and of course, I mean, all of these skills that you have learned can also be applied in the sports industry, as you said, with management and accounting, and all of this is also in the sports industry, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps down the road. It's also pretty soon. So for the educational training studies, you need to intern in some company, like corporate company. That was what I had to do. And that basically led me to the path, okay, I don't want to, as hard as it sounds, I don't want to walk into the same room for 40 years. I want to work more flexible, international, abroad, also in Germany, and everywhere around. And that basically gave me the final kick of being like, okay, this is cool. I do enjoy teaching, but it's not going to be the general path of teaching, or path of teaching that maybe society expects from you as a woman, as someone who is maybe wanting to start a family at some point. So I'm very happy that I chose a different path, which was never easy, which will never be easy. But I'm very thankful that this came into my life.
Yeah, I understand that. So you said you always wanted to work in sports, and now you're working with branding and media. Was that always the emphasis within sports that you wanted to work, or did that come later?
Everything that I'm doing did somehow happen without being planned. I finished my master degree basically in the moment when lockdown hit in Germany. So I remember checking from the big firms, checking the job portals. There were always in the last, let's say, 2015 to 2019, there were always around 4,000, 5,000 spots worldwide available, right? Over all departments or across all departments. And when COVID hit in January, February 2020, something changed and there were like 5 to 6 spots online per company. And for me, that was clear, like, there is no way. I don't want to like work in China. I don't want to work in, in India. Like, there's no way now that COVID hits, I'm going to get like a way to go to the US and work there. So it was somehow clear, like, okay, I'm just going to have to sit this out. Like, probably it's going to take 2 to 3 months. There will be some lockdown. Okay, I'm working since I'm 18 and a half. So it's been a while. So I'm good with having like 2 or 3 months off, although I'm not good with sitting still and sitting just waiting. So I had already two freelance jobs. And so I just started with that. That was April 2020 when I was officially done with uni. And then in August, I got the call from International Swimming League, from this Champions League for swimmers, if I wanted to be a team manager, which meant I need to be 6 weeks in Budapest. And I agreed within, I don't know, 1.5 seconds. So basically, that was the start of a lot of things. And I would have never imagined to actually work in international sports, to work in national sports, to work with kids, to work with federations, to do workshops, talk about branding, talk about what I'm passionate about. But it somehow happened. And one thing led to another. This person led me to this person. And the network just expanded. I had this network within Ernst & Young as in taxation accounting, in the taxation and accounting world, and I never had this network in swimming. So this somehow like evolved a lot faster than I would have ever imagined. But my dream was working in international managing sports.
Interesting. And I mean, from going from the studies to the freelancing and now becoming an entrepreneur, starting your own company, how was that leap?
Well, it started kind of slow with being a freelancer and just seeing like where things going, working 100% on my own. Of course, it was lockdown. We all know, like, we were at home. I was working 2.5 years just from home. So basically within, I don't know, 40 square meters, living and working. And then in May, I think it was around April, May 2023, the idea came up with creating a swim school and basically making a difference, also not for the big kids on the international stage, but also for the small kids and especially also for the adults here in Stuttgart. And from that idea, it started with like 5 classes, 10 classes. Okay, the like more employees are coming on board. There's more back-end work, and that like went to from 0 to I think over 50 classes per week right now, or way over 50 classes actually, within 2 years. And sometimes I have to sit down and ask myself, how did this even happen? Or even pinch myself and be like, okay, where is this coming from? Where is this going? I have no clue. People ask me like, where do you are in 5 years? I have no clue even where I'm in half a year from now. But I know that this is what I'm passionate about. I want to leave a footprint out there in Europe within swimming of what I am like, what just drives me since 26 years.
That's great. I know you emphasize building authentic, holistic brands with athletes and not just for them. What does that mean?
So for me, it was always important to take this authenticity and create something that spreads the vibe that I experience within ISL and within working with athletes to the outside world, especially knowing that there are so many young people out there who want to be inspired. So I never really focused on, okay, let's take this athlete and let's just scale things up and everything is about finance and about money and about the dollars on the bank account, but actually making a difference in terms of like just guiding people. I don't think authenticity comes from from setting yourself there and being like, you have to do this, 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 and this to go somewhere, but actually taking them, like, go with hand in hand and just go somewhere where they know they can always rely and fall back on you. Same with if I hold workshops for federations or clubs or companies, I never like go like, this is the blueprint, and if you do like that, it will work. But always like being, these are the options you can do. Pick whatever works best for you and pick wherever you feel like the most natural. Because if you represent something to the outside that you don't even feel in the inside of the company, but also like within the employees and within the team, people will never feel this vibe and energy on the outside. So that's how I run the company, the swim school that I run. But that's also always the advice I give to the outside.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have, for example, brand deals, you can see through right away if there is something that is just, that you know it for the money, or if it's something that you actually believe in or support. Like that's, you can see that pretty clearly, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Given your experience with professional swimmers and swim camps, to integrate the athletic identity with their long-term strategies. So how do you work with that?
I maybe have a different approach in that. I never tried or never did actually dive into anything athletic. Like, I'm not the expert in coaching. I'm not the expert in nutrition, in physio, in whatever belongs to the athlete, especially to the swimmer, where my field is, that belongs to their performance in the pool. I'm always there if they need something. I'm always there if they need, like, for example, I'm working with Marco Koch, a German breaststroker who was a former world record holder, 200 meters short course breaststroke, and also world champion and multiple Olympic games. I was never a person who was there and being like, okay, let's do this and that. Or if I was with him alone at a competition and he was like, hey, can you tie me, or can you just videotape that I can have a look? I'm there. But I was never there in any terms of like, here is your plan. Like, this is what you need to do to also perform off, like not on pool deck or in the pool, but actually offline or within something else. But the priority is their performance. The priority is what they do in the pool. And then everything else is on top. And I think that within probably other sports or maybe athletes that are within a management or something, there is the high pressure of, I have also to perform offline, or like offline in terms of like not in the pool. And swimming as a sport itself is more than a full-time job. Calculating together their time in the pool, their time in the gym, physio, nutrition, sleep, all that together is more than 40 hours per week. So it's not a priority to even have like a half-time job on site to take videos, create stuff. The first and foremost thing they have to focus on is their performance. I hope that helps. But I've never dove into that field.
That's an interesting point, right? Because now they are their own brands and they need to be on social media and these things. But actually, as you said, like the swimming itself and everything they do to optimize their swimming career is actually more than a full-time job. So maybe, you need to build your personal brand, but you can't, do that too much so it interferes with your swimming.
Exactly.
It's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah.
You're doing some workshops and educations on different social media, website management, and also ChatGPT and AI. So how have you feel like AI has changed your industry and your work?
Well, luckily the offline work, not so much. So the swim classes I hold or my team holds, or all the swim camps that we do with pro athletes, not really. But of course, helping to, or preparing to help others, AI does help a lot. And AI does give me also within social media and marketing the option to create ideas or to spark some ideas. I'm not a fan of like just having AI create content and then taking that one-to-one. But of course it does help with working with federations or working with athletes and sometimes you just need this first spark of like, what can I do? What can I create? And what direction can it go? Because at some point, if you do this for a couple of years, things repeat. And you get like in kind of a, not a like a rabbit hole, but you get into like some kind of spiral that just repeats itself again and again and again. And I believe that sometimes it's good to break out, but it's sometimes hard. Like for me, it's sometimes hard to just take 5 steps back and look from the outside. So the way I helps me with being like, okay, I have this and this, I'm doing this and this pretty often, like create something or give me some ideas that go beyond, but like stay somehow in the same pattern so that it still represents me as a person or me as a brand or the brand that I'm supporting or the federation or club or whatever I'm supporting. So that in that sense, it definitely helps. And it's really interesting to see how things evolve within federations and within clubs. When I'm holding these workshops for the federations, they're normally the managing boards, some people from the managing boards in the workshops. We're trying to create a more streamlined and more effective work for their club because it's all on voluntary basis, right? So they need to work more effective, and seeing them evolve with using tools like online tools, Trello, Canva, whatever, Notion, whatever it is, but also using ChatGPT or Gemini, but also using other, just like for social media, how can we like create social media easier, more streamlined, like play or like play content on more platforms at the same time. So all these things like to give them a guideline, and same thing with like with the athletes, hold their hands and basically support them on their way to also find their best solution, which might be not the solution that I'm using, but might be their best solution. And that's what I'm passionate about, is like making other or helping others, supporting others to be their best.
No, that's very interesting. And I mean, you mentioned the swim camps and this type of education. So how do you balance this in your work, like under your company, that you're having the more online focused and then the, as you said, offline focused part?
Yeah. So my whole team is just working for the swim camps, for the swim classes, for everything that we have mostly here in Stuttgart based, and everything that's going for the federations, all the workshops, all the things that I'm doing, like as a consultant basically, or as a freelancer. That's my own thing. That is like solely me still as it started. It's still the same. So within the swim academy and within the swim camps that we're doing, it grew immensely as like the classes grew. Of course, like all the customer service stuff, that's like a massive part. Doing marketing, creating content, putting all that online, and basically building this brand not only to the inside but also to the outside. I I started doing all that by myself, and slowly I'm having people on the team that I trust in a way and trust fully, that I can also give those things away and basically pass them on. So that works really well for me to just fully trust and give them their own space to also be creative, which I always wanted to be as an employee. So I'm always saying I'm trying to be that boss that I would have loved to have myself. And that means I have a certain guideline, a certain roadmap, a certain path where we're going, but not a strict structure. And that counts for the online stuff like customer service and all that I just said, all the booking elements. We're right now creating or about to finalize and go live with a platform that manages everything around customer service automated and around clinics booking and classes booking and all that. And at the same time, everything that's offline in the pool, same thing. I'm there if you need help. Here are some guidelines with games, with how do I teach which words are we using. There are some guidelines and a roadmap, but a lot of things like how do you run your class if you jump with the kids in the beginning or in the end, or if you swim 3 lanes or 5 lanes. Every kid is individual. Every class is individual. And in the beginning, as 2023, where I started, and did not know how to run a swim school. I was like, okay, I need to prepare session 1, we're doing this. Session 2, we're doing this. And I stopped within, I think, 4 weeks to even think about that because it makes no sense. Every kid is individual. Every coach is individual. And if I tell the coach to run the class very strict after a certain order, then they won't be able to live out their full potential in my eyes.
Then it's important with the recruitment, right? That you find the right team and the right coaches. So then you have put a lot of emphasis, I guess, to find the right people on your team.
Yeah, for sure. And that is tough because some people need a bit more of this guideline, and I'm willing to give that. But I believe that if you want to grow and if you want to evolve, that you need to give the freedom, and you also need to hand on the responsibility. It's their responsibility that the classes run smoothly. I am there. I can help. I have an open ear. There are other people, other coaches, experienced coaches on site that can support. But at the end of the day, if you run a class, it's your responsibility to run the class smoothly in some sense.
When you're building it like that, and you said that you have the coaches, they have the creative freedom to create their classes and so on. Do you see an opportunity, do you want to scale this larger? Like you mentioned now in Stuttgart, but I mean, there is Germany, then there is Europe and, the world. Is that something you have considered?
For sure. I mean, I won't, and I will not spoil anything that's not written down or on paper, but there are thoughts for sure. And I want to inspire as many people as I can on the side of the coaches and also on the side of the kids, and the potential's there. My passion is there, my energy is there, and the team is growing in a way where I know, okay, we will be able to expand. We will be able to expand locally. We'll be able to expand in a bigger region. If I'm going into different countries, also, which means different languages, also a lot of taxation, accounting things in the back end that are not that easy sometimes. Let's see. I don't know yet, but I definitely want to create the space for as many people as possible to work and to learn.
If you're thinking your branding model, do you think that could go beyond swimming? I know that your swimming is your sport, but do you see that this thing can go beyond to other sports as well?
So the branding part, for sure, that's already beyond swimming because that's not really connected to any sport, especially when I'm working for federations or doing workshops. There are people from multiple sports there. Which is also clear because branding is not necessarily linked to swimming. Everything that's within the swim academy I do have right now, it's not necessarily linked to swimming. Right now it is because that is where I'm coming from. But there are already options to expand those on different sports and also create multi-sport events for kids, like multi-sport weekends, which is not necessarily about swimming. I also always tell the parents and the coaches, for me, the passion is not to get people to swim or to love swimming. Of course, it's about getting people to swim and to learn to swim, but especially getting kids to move, getting kids away from a computer, from a digital device, from a mobile device, from everything of that. I want to have kids enjoy the movement and enjoy being outside, enjoy being with people. Also, the social aspect of learning how do I integrate into a team? Although it's just a swim lesson, but kids do learn, how do I integrate? How do I take care of others? I don't jump on their head. I don't pull them underwater. If we're listening, if the coach is saying something, I got to listen. All these social soft skills are so important for later on. And there are definitely a bunch of kids who started the Learn to Swim program with us. And now 2 years later, they're like, hey, I don't want to really go into a club. I feel really comfortable here. Can I not have a regular training with you guys? So there is this evolvement of what I always had in my head and have in my head. I want to get kids to move and enjoy swimming at the end of the day. So yeah, that will definitely at some point go beyond swimming, like the swim academy that's Swim and Move Academy right now.
No, that's great. And I've talked about that a lot before on this podcast as well, with the importance of movement and, physical activity for kids and to stay as long as possible in sports.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, like if you see, ahead 5, 10 years, where do you envision this company going?
As I said, I don't know. I don't know where I'm at in 5 or 10 years. I know for myself that I want to work more strategic, creative on a bigger scale, and basically not every month, but every now and then end up in front of a fully blank whiteboard and think again, like where can the path go? And I experienced over the last years that every time when I feel in my head like, okay, like, this is it right now, this is running, this is working. Am I happy here? Is this like big enough? Kind of. Always when I came to that point, someone stepped into my life and there was another option or opportunity opening up. And that's the same like this time. Like the classes are running right now, everything's working. We have intense classes in the summer break, in the spring break, whenever classes are working. And somehow always like something new opens up, a new door opens up. Always when I kind of let go of this pressure of like something has to evolve, when I just let go of that and be like, it's gonna happen, something is showing up. So there are some things in the pipeline I can't talk about right now, maybe next time, but this is definitely not the end of the growth for sure.
That's great to hear, and it will be exciting to follow your journey. Thinking about the entrepreneurship in general, and it was around COVID times, it's not easy. It's a lot of things that needs to be considered. So has there been any bumps on the road, any difficulties during your career? And if so, how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest bumps on the road were probably before I started being self-employed. Big bumps were during studies. Big bumps were during, okay, where is my path going? I graduated with my master's thesis about innovation in pro sports. And that was kind of my kickoff of being like, okay, after Ernst & Young, I worked for a swim club in the managing board voluntarily, and then also did like a working student job in a startup company. And from that on, I like end of the study, I also split from the club and from the company and just like had a fully restart. And I think that was a big bump, a big leap of faith and being like, okay, I can do this. And I don't know where it's going, but it just feels right to have a kind of a freedom of doing whatever feels right for me. And since then, I always just follow this path of like, I just do whatever feels right. And if in 5 years from now, it means I don't want to own a swim school anymore, then that's the case. But if that means I want to expand to 3 other European countries, then that's also the case. So kind of the bumps were always, of course, a bit of a mental topic in terms of, especially during COVID, you're basically alone. I was just a full-time freelancer on my own with no social contacts during lockdown, kind of, right? So that was definitely a big mental part. But now I am, the bigger the team gets, as hard as it sounds, the bigger the team gets, the more stable is everything around me, because I know even if I'm not here for a day, 2, if I'm sick or whatever, everything is running. And that takes a lot of pressure of me, like down, because it is, as a self-employed person, tough because, if you're not there, things don't get done, right? When you're alone. And now that I try to pull myself out of a lot of operative structures, it's not not everyone has to rely on me in the end to always be there. And this push of getting more freedom back. Freedom sounds hard, but like freedom in terms of like, where am I at? When am I opening my computer up? Which projects can I maybe take on as a freelancer, and all these things. This freedom gives me a big mental freedom as well, and takes away a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I understand that. And again, it goes back to like the importance of your team and that you have been able to take a step back from some operational tasks.
Yeah.
So how do you work with that, with recruitment? I guess that was something that was new to you as well.
Yeah, for sure. in the beginning, you think about your network and you think like, okay, who can I ask? And that's how it started. We were a team of people we knew, like I knew. And then at some point you're like, okay, I need to like go onto platforms, search for people, post things, like just like somehow create a brand. But then at some point you're like, okay, if you want people to apply, you also have to have something visible out there about the brand. Like, who are you about? What are your values? What do you offer? Who is behind this company? I always always tried to not make it about me and my name. That's also why when I speak to parents, like most of the parents don't know I own this company. Only like get it like because they do some research, maybe know it like after 2-3 months. But I always try to also present this picture to the outset. We're all one. And I think that's what at some point, yeah, gave in the option or gave other people the option to like apply. And now it's really funny that a lot of current employees are like, hey, I have a friend who is interested. Hey, my girlfriend is interested. Hey, my neighbor heard that. Hey, my daughter is also interested. She's now 14 or whatever. Can she start and like start as a supporter to the classes? So this kind of growing, of course, sometimes it brings risk. If you lose one, you might lose two. But at the end of the day, I always think positive, and I always, want to also give young people a chance and an opportunity to evolve and to learn and to experience something and to also take on responsibility, right? To have a team of so many young people who are willing to take on responsibility, I think that's really cool, to be honest.
Yeah, that's really cool. And sports in general is a good school for learning. And I think giving young people that opportunity to be leaders, I think that's very useful for them later in life as well.
Yeah. And I think also a topic why there are more people maybe applying now that we kind of switch to, hey, we don't necessarily need swim coaches to apply. We need people who are willing to work with kids and who can work with kids, because if you're already able to have this educational part within yourself, within your yourself as a teacher, whatever you are, or just a random person who loves working with kids who already did summer camps and stuff, you can always learn the swimming part. That's like nothing you need to know by heart from the beginning. You just go and learn. But the bigger topic is you can't teach someone how to work with kids. So I think changing this approach, which also comes from my time with Ernst & Young, because as I started there, I didn't know anything about taxation. And they were always like, if you're motivated, we don't care if you know anything about taxation or not. You can learn the hard skills, but you can't learn the soft skills. And that's how we approach it now. And also with having actually three people in the back end who are just working in the back office with me, helps, of course. Setting up interviews, setting up people to do test days and to do like interviews on site and meet me on site here and there, to have this person who like coordinates all that with Letizia is amazing.
And I think that's a very good learning, as you said, that it's much more easier to teach someone a hard skill than a soft skill. And if you have the right attitude and a willingness to learn, then that goes further beyond someone who has the hard skills but the wrong attitude.
Absolutely. The character you can't change it, right? If you have a character that fits to us, then perfect. You're good, and with enough motivation and energy, you're able to learn all the swimming specific stuff. And especially like swim teaching kids is not like you need a vocabulary that like goes beyond 250 words, right? So if you have this gamification way of interacting with kids and this character, then perfect.
During these years, what are some learnings you have taken from running your own company? If a young person is listening and they want to make a similar journey as you, like some learnings you have taken.
For sure. One thing is consistency. one other thing is definitely I had to learn sometimes the hard way that my own health is a priority. I was never good at that. I'm probably still not good at that, but I had to learn, and I wanted to learn that I put myself first. And if I'm not working well and if I'm not healthy, if it's physically, if it's mentally, then the company cannot work well. So that's definitely one big part. And one quote that is following me since probably 15 years is do it with passion or not at all. And I run with that. That's also why I don't know where I'm at in 10 years from now. So yeah, but for sure, one big part is taking care of yourself, and having also people around yourself who remind you you're worthy and you're worth it to take care of yourself. During my life, I did have mentors who I always looked up to. But since starting my company, I did never have one of these people in front of me where I could like chase that goal or chase that dream, or where I just could bounce things off of. That is definitely one thing I would recommend of having, because I think I would have saved myself a lot of fears, breakdowns, and all these, let's say, loops I ran if I would have had one of these people. But yeah, trust was not there, and I never could rely on anyone in that sense.
I like those three things. And what you mentioned, like the second one there, to take care of yourself, it's that like airplane analogy, right? That if something happens and you need to put a mask on, you should put yourself first so you can help others. And it's the same too, as you say, that if you're not in a good shape or like mentally in the right place, then you will not do as good of a job and, helping your team. But if you're, taking care of yourself first, then you're in a better position.
Yeah, for sure.
And also consistency, obviously, like talked a lot about that as well, really important. And I heard some quote that was something like, being consistent doesn't guarantee that you get successful, but not being consistent definitely means that you will not be successful. So, I mean, you need that consistency, doing things every day. You've been doing this now for a couple of years and definitely showing off now.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, what I'm also still working on from time to time is taking a step back. We're not even taking just one step back, but taking 2-3 steps back and looking on everything from the outside. Because I believe that sometimes if you just run with it, which I am like doing since now 5.5 years, you just continue to run. You're at some point just like a firefighter. You're like putting out all the fires that are coming up here and there, but you're never really seeing the big picture. Where are things going? And that can also help with like, what do I want to do next? Is this fine the way it is? If I'm happy, that's cool. But as things are growing and as things are sometimes maybe growing a bit too fast, that like I always say, like my brain understands everything, but my heart sometimes doesn't like get along with things because it's just like going too fast, and I have to like align my heart and my brain in certain things. So I try to like take a step back, which can also mean just like take a day off and see things in a bigger picture again. Also reflect things, also digest certain things that are happening. That definitely helps me as well.
Is it easy, like when you're in it, so to speak, that you get stuck in like the hamster wheel when you're having the company just running?
Yeah.
When did you realize that you need to like take a step back?
Realizing was not that hard. Like realizing I was able to, I think the first time I really realized that I had to take a step back was in season 2 of International Swimming League of the ISL. We were in Naples for 5.5 weeks, I think it was. That was in 2021. And I think that was the moment where I already realized, okay, this is like growing a lot bigger than I thought, even just me working for myself. And this is really what I want to do. And that was after that when, of course, you're 5.5 weeks taking care of 50 people, managing 50 people, and suddenly you're at home and you're just there for yourself and you just have to take care of one person. It's quite of a change. And I think that was the first time I realized, okay, I have to take a step back and see the bigger picture and see where it's going. And right now it's like those, let's say, intervals are getting smaller and smaller. And now with having a team that I can rely on and everything that's basically operational, it's easier for me to take these steps back because I know things are running, although I'm not there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting time to follow you. And, you said you had some things you couldn't share. So I will, keep an eye on you and see what's happening for the next couple of years. I'd like to end on a networking question. So who from your network do you think would be a good guest on this show?
I believe I want to recommend an athlete. I would love to recommend Kira Toussaint. She's a just retired Dutch pro swimmer who's also doing a lot in sports business and a great person to talk to. Really fun personality. And although we're the same age, we have fully different paths, but somehow still align in the mindset. So I think she would be a great person to talk to.
That is an amazing suggestion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Maike, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the follow or subscribe button on your podcast app so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com, connect with me on LinkedIn, or follow the podcast on Instagram, X, and Facebook @SportsM Podcast.